All right, how's everybody doing today? Welcome back to You Don't Know Ball. It's only right we get back to doing some mock draft simulation reactions because we only got a week until the draft. I'm very ecstatic. I know y'all are too. So without further ado, let's get right into it. First off the board, as always, no explanation needed. What we will see on draft night, Caleb Williams, the Chicago Bears. All right, and then number 2, we got Drake May. And this one's interesting because at this point, especially if you're a Commanders fan, I feel like you probably feel like it's kind of a toss-up between Drake May and Jaden Daniels. Now, it gets interesting because, obviously we were starting to lean a lot more towards Jaden Daniels, but then if you've been paying attention over the past couple of days, there's been rumblings where his agent is a little bit disgruntled, making it public, and now I'm sure the Commanders are aware of that because they had all of the QB prospects that they wanted to interview come in at the same time, which, again, in my opinion, is weird practice. But at the same time, when you go and make it public, and then you take it where it's now everyone's business, and then the Commanders have to evaluate, is this what we want to deal with? Is this a sign of things to come? If they're already set on Jaden, I don't think there's anything that's going to push them all the way away. But at the same time, it very well could, and they could go back to whatever they were feeling before, or maybe it's making them lean more the Drake May route. So, seeing what the Commanders do at number 2 on draft night is going to be very interesting, because now all of a sudden, nobody really knows. It's going to be very interesting to see what goes down. All right, and then a little interesting, because normally, we expect number 3 to the Patriots. If J.J. McCarthy is looking more and more likely. If not, that Drake May does, it's a lot of contingencies. If Drake May doesn't go 2, well, then Drake May is very likely he can go 3. But then, all of a sudden, Jaden Daniels is a Patriot. Again, I don't necessarily think this is what we're going to see on draft night, but it certainly is not impossible. Certainly still in the realm of possibility. So definitely, again, I just can't wait. Something to keep our eye on. It's going to be so much fun on the draft night. Then again, at number 4, we got Marv coming off the board here. Absolutely no surprise if they don't trade this pick. Again, the Cardinals, very likely. If not, there's really no other way to look at it. They're going to go Marvin Harrison Jr. 99.9% of the time. And yeah, Marvin Harrison Jr., barring a trade, very likely will be a Cardinal. All right, then we got Malik Neighbors going number 5 to the Chargers. But, the more and more we get down in this process, and the more that we listen to what Jim Harbaugh says, honestly, I would be very surprised to see the Chargers not either trade down or to take a lineman right here, an offensive lineman specifically. Building up those trenches. If they go the receiver, tight end, whatever route they want to go, I would be more surprised than not at this point. Obviously it would make sense, but I do get it from a team building perspective. You got to build those trenches first. They're riding my philosophy, so I got to rock with what the Chargers are trying to do if that's the route they want to go, and I wouldn't be surprised. All right, we got another mock where the big 3 receivers go right in a row. We got Rome here to the Giants. Now, again, the Giants can do a lot of things here at pick 6. They definitely could go QB. Definitely could take JJ potentially. And if JJ's sitting here as he is right now, I wouldn't be surprised for them to go that route instead. I'd be more surprised for them to go a weapon where they don't, obviously they say they're in on Daniel Jones, but it's pretty obvious I don't think they're in on Daniel Jones that much anymore for obvious reasons, especially in the long term. You can do whatever you want with this pick, truly. The Giants are kind of in a funky situation regardless, where just you take the QB, it definitely does not fix all your holes. You take another thing, it definitely doesn't fix the QB situation. Really, no matter what, the Giants are not going to instantly benefit from, this year's first-round pick in terms of wins. But that's why I'm saying I would be surprised to see them not go the QB route if one of their guys is sitting here, because we just know how bad that they need it. All right, and then at pick 7 here, we got Olo Fashanu coming off the board before Joe Alt, which kind of sounds like a felony. Again, I like Olu. As we get more and more into the process, I feel like with Olu, there's, definitely certain holes in his game that other tackles don't have. And I'm not going to get into the other tackles. All I'm going to say is when Joe Alt is sitting on the board, to pass on him for your blind side, to take a more of a shot on Olu. Again, nothing against Olu, but with Joe Alt on the board right here, just not the pick for me. All right, and then to the Falcons here at pick 8, we got Dallas Turner. Again, there's been a lot of reports that this was definitely one of the directions the Falcons would be looking to go. Obviously we've speculated this for a long period of time now, knowing that he's a potential blue chip edge. The Falcons need an edge. So if the Falcons don't trade down, don't maneuver, I would be very surprised not to see them go either interior D-line or edge. At this point, it's kind of just the writing's on the wall, unless they want to get crazy and, pull kind of a wild card on us. All right, now this one is pretty wild. In a crazy turn of events, we have the Raiders and Bears doing a little trade. Raiders trade up, take J.J. McCarthy off the board right here. Now, again, that certainly is not something I expect on draft night. Now, again, is it in the realm of possibilities? Of course it is, because we definitely don't know what these teams are thinking. We don't know how their draft boards look. But from all the reports we've heard so far, I don't think the Raiders would be the team trading up for JJ. But hey, you know what? They are in today's mock, and it certainly is a fun little twist. Oh, right, and then an even crazier, more egregious twist of events. I got my squad here, the Saints, shooting up with the Jets, taking Joe Alt. Now, let me just say this. Obviously, in the most fucked up universe that this mock is going on in, if this were somehow to be able to be a possibility, you can literally catch me with Tony Hawk doing backflips on a skateboard, because I shit you not, I will be literally elated. However, it's just, again, in the realm of possibilities, this is really not in it. This mock is kind of going off the walls, but in a fun way. I'll take it. We're already, we're less than a week away from the draft. I'm all for just fun, crazy. Let's just see what we can do. Let's see how crazy the simulations can get. I mean, we might as well at this point. But realistically, Joe Alt will very likely not be sitting there at pick 10. And he, like I said, more than anything, he's probably not going to be if he's not the first tackle off the board, I will be legitimately, baffled. So, but, if this were somehow to happen, I would be ecstatic as a Saints fan. I'm sure all Saints fans would be as well. All right, and then here at pick 11, after the Vikings got jumped here for J.J. McCarthy, I guess they're just saying we're going best player available. We're taking Brock Bowers. Again, you have T.J. Hockenson, so we're not the biggest fan of the move. But if T.J. never comes back the same from the injury, well, at least you definitely got your BPA tight end, a guy who is going to surely replace him and potentially, produce even better, as we know with Brock Bowers' ceiling. Again, though, I don't expect the Vikings to go tight end with their 11th overall pick. I think they would either trade down in this situation or have traded up before for the QB, when it was starting to get a little bit, dicey with who's going to be available, or still just take a QB right here. The board is not in their favor at this point. I was saying I would expect a trade down if things were to go, again, this way. But, again, very likely the draft we're kind of off the walls already. I don't think the draft is going to go this way, but we're all for it. It's just some fun. Oh, right, and then at pick 12 to the Broncos, we got Latu. And I don't mind it at all because, we always say, when the Broncos come up, and it's true, they are just in a very funky situation. They're probably not going to be able to get their guy at quarterback. And if they are going to, you probably would want to trade down pretty hefty to get where you feel like you're getting good value on him as opposed to, really reaching. Because it's either got to be Penix or Nix at this point, and drafting them this early would feel like reaching. So again, a lot of people, a lot of, mocks, they have them going the DB route. Well, on that same token, I would not be surprised to see them just, go defense, whatever. But to go with one of these guys where they just have an astronomically high ceiling, banking on them being one of the best players in the class, and at least in this dicey spot you're in where you don't really have tons of, hope for the immediate future, you can at least get a future All-Pro to really build one side of the ball around. And if you're the Broncos right here, taking Latu, it's definitely one of these guys that has a chance to be one of those guys out of this year's class. So you can't be too upset about it if this was the route the Broncos were to go. All right, and then on the trade down here at pick 13, we got the Bears taking Jared Verse. And I love this for them. I know Bears fans would love this too, especially getting that value from a trade down and still being able to get, one of your very potential guys. I'm sure this is one of Ryan Pohl's guys. If I know anything about the way the Bears have been operating, the RAS, all that, I think Jared Verse is going to be one of those guys they're going to be targeting very heavily. So to be able to trade down, still get one of your guys, you got to feel good about that if you're a Bears fan. All right, and then pick 14 here for the Jets. I love this one. This definitely is kind of a, I haven't seen this scenario play out in any mocks or any sims, but I love it. We got Amarius Mims to the Jets on the trade down. Because if you're the Jets, again, you're kind of in a situation where it's we got the tackles on one-year deals. We don't know about the future. We don't know about Aaron Rodgers' future after this season, especially. We're getting into weird territory. But at least we're taking a guy who we believe has the highest ceiling of all the tackles in this year's class, minus, taking away Joe Alt. Even with Joe Alt, from a physical standpoint, Amarius Mims, man, like I say, tackle built in a lab, there's no doubt about it. Just gotta keep him healthy. Get him actually out there consistently. But, going to a team like the Jets, where you don't have to even necessarily play this year, just learn behind a great like Tyron Smith also, might I add, soak it up, get ready, get healthy, and then be kicked in there next year when one of these guys isn't re-signed. Definitely one of the best case scenarios for Amarius Mims that we haven't even, at least me personally, haven't even seen yet. So It's definitely interesting. All right, and then at pick 15 to the Colts, who desperately need an X corner. No surprise to see Terrion Arnold coming off the board here. Again, I do believe for the Colts, it'll probably very likely be DB if they don't trade up or trade down. And they don't really not in a position where they're going to really have to do either. I think they're probably just going to go BPA for the position they feel is where they need most. And I'm sure what they're probably going to feel where they need most is a defensive back, specifically, like I just said, an X corner. You're taking your guy right here, Terrion Arnold, who is kind of becoming consensus CB1 in the class now that I feel like DeJean's kind of become a consensus safety over on the other side. My thing I would say about DeJean, where if he was, it depends how you view him. He's my DB1, but he's not my corner one. Terrion Arnold is my corner one. And, again, no surprise being, first corner taken off the board right here to the Colts. Oh, right, and then at pick 16 here to the Seahawks, we got Talise Fuaga. Very interesting because, again, seeing him fall this far is kind of rare, where he normally doesn't ever go past, 12, 13, 14. Here he is at pick 16 to the Seahawks. And, you got to assume in the Seahawks offense he'd be playing guard. But as I've said before, whether you're playing Talise, I would just keep him at right tackle. But whether you're playing him at right tackle, guard, I think you're getting a guy with super high upside who can definitely transition over to guard if he had to. I wouldn't mind seeing him in the Seahawks at all, and it's interesting. And this mock more than anything is kind of providing us with a lot of different landing spots for guys we haven't really seen yet. But Talise to the Seahawks certainly would be a good landing spot. I'm not going to argue about that at all. All right, into the Jaguars here at pick 17, we got Nate Wiggins. And to be honest with you, I'm really not the biggest fan of the pick for so many reasons, but more than anything, because cornerback now is definitely not the biggest need that it was, pre-free agency. And also, like I always say about the Jags, you've got to address the O-line at some point. I mean, I know, again, they've re-signed some of these guys, but you got guys that are going to be coming up off the contract after this season. I'm just not a big fan of the O-line, even honestly, with the guy that they re-signed. The direction the Jaguars have taken building this team has been really confusing over the past few seasons, honestly. Yeah, Nate Wiggins potentially a possibility here at 17 for them, but I just feel like you could take so many better needs off the board, guys they could provide you with better value. But that's also just me. I see the upside with Nate Wiggins. I still understand. It's definitely not the worst pick in the world. It's not even a bad pick. It's just not the route I would go personally. All right, and then pick 18 to the Bengals. We definitely have seen this one before. Again, we got Troy Fautanu coming off the board right here. And as I always say, team like the Bengals, they need to fill the guard spot more immediately right now. But on that other side, the O-line's pretty well built all in all. You have your tackles, though, where Trent Brown specifically, where you're not sure, with injuries, with everything, is Trent Brown going to be able to play here long term? Is he going to make it past the 1-year deal? But regardless, Troy Fautanu to the Bengals is definitely one of the best landing spots for him, as I always say whenever we do the simulated mocks, and would not be surprised to see him come off the board right here if he's sitting there at pick 18 for the Bengals. All right, and then pick 19 here to the Rams. We got definitely a little bit of a wild card. We got Quinyon Mitchell coming off the board. Again, I don't think I've seen this one in any of the sims we've done mocks. I haven't seen this one, I don't believe. And this one's interesting because, again, I don't at all believe, corner is the Rams' first need by any means. I'd obviously want to address it at some point, but just, again, not the biggest need. I feel like you could go, there's a lot of O-linemen on the board here. But yeah, I would say actually still a fair amount of O-linemen I'm taking before I'm going DB. That's just really what the situation is for me. The Rams in this case, for me, especially with staff getting older, you got to go trenches. And I would be very surprised to see them not go trench route or potential successor to Matt Stafford. If that's the route they decide to go, also would not be too surprised. I know Rams fans don't want to hear that, but you're getting to that point where it's certainly a possibility where if you're McVay and, Co, you're starting to say to yourself probably, well, the sooner we can get a guy in here, to start learning behind staff, start learning the offense where there's not as much pressure, we're not going to throw him into that fire, that Jordan Love style approach, I would not be surprised. At the same time, I would also not be surprised to see them do it in the later rounds as opposed to the first round because, as we know, you got to hit on your first round picks, especially when you're like the Rams and you've traded away so many of them, and they have been hitting on these picks. So, again, I feel like I'm most likely expecting them to go trenches, but if they don't go trenches, it's potentially they could go DB or something else. So, you're getting good value in Quinyon Mitchell, but for a team like the Rams, I just would expect a different route. All right, and then pick 20 to the Steelers right here, we got Brian Thomas Jr., and, especially after trading away Deontay Johnson, would not at all be surprised to see them go the receiver route early. Give Russ as many options as possible. Try to for the resurgence of Russ's career. You want to give as much as possible. They could definitely go a few different routes right here. but seeing them go receiver to immediately replace what they just lost, and then, kind of potentially, again, with a guy like Brian Thomas Jr., potentially what a more productive replacement, to be honest, just frank, than Deontay Johnson, a guy you can do different things with, a better, I don't say a better, but a different skill set for sure. And to match with Russ, might I add, the Moonballs. I mean, Brian Thomas Jr. x Russ definitely's got a ring to it. It's kind of be that Cortland Sutton connection over here in Pittsburgh, where just throw it up to him, he's gonna go take care of business. He's got the burners. I mean, it would definitely be a fun little connection down there in Pittsburgh with Brian Thomas Jr. All right, and then pick 21 to the Dolphins, we got J.C. Latham. And as I say every time that this pick comes up in the Sims, we definitely start to see this one a fair amount of times now. I'm not going to change what I say, So a lot of people, they don't see the projection of J.C. to guard. Well, me personally, again, I say I think he has just as high of a ceiling at guard as tackle, if not potentially higher. I mean, if you kick him to guard, I really don't think I have a problem with it at all. And again, with the way the Dolphins are built right now, you'd have to safely assume that they'd be kicking him into guard most likely if they drafted him right here. And again, I would not have a problem with it at all. Wouldn't be surprised. And I think it would be a fantastic value pick more than anything else. All right, and then at pick 22 to the Eagles right here, we got Cooper DeJean. And as I say every time we've seen this one in the sim mocks, in any type of mock, this is probably the landing spot for Cooper DeJean if the Eagles have a chance to make that move on him. Again, you need a safety. Cooper DeJean is, in my opinion, the best safety, the best DB, and just kind of all in all, most pro-ready DB in this year's class. Good in the run game. He can do a lot of things in coverage, and the Eagles desperately need someone like Coop, so I would not be surprised at all to see the Eagles pull the trigger right here if he's sitting on the board at pick 22. All right, and then all of a sudden, the Vikings, they had me in the first round. I'm going to give them credit where it's due. Pairing Penix also with a year very likely to sit, get, soak up that knowledge, get better, not as much pressure on his shoulders, and then also you're pairing him with Brock Bowers. I mean, all of a sudden, I'm going to give credit where it's due. I was a little bit worried about it at first with that first round, taking just Brock, and I didn't know what the plan was afterwards. But if you take Brock and you get Michael Penix, again, I don't think at all this is the route the Vikings are going to go. Very much expect the Vikings to be trading up for one of their guys, be moving up that board. But again, if this was somehow the route they were to go, as I say every time the Vikings do a weird pairing of like Brock Bowers and some other quarterback, which we have seen a fair amount of times now, believe me. This one though, I don't mind it at all. I like this one over a lot of the other ones we've seen. Where Penix and Bowers, I like that. I do like that. All right, and then at pick 24 to the Cowboys right here, we got Graham Barton. And again, if you haven't been paying attention, I'll fill you in here. As the process moves along, Graham Barton projected much more and more to the center position. And, as we've been saying for weeks, probably could play anywhere on that O-line. He can. But, teams are probably going to start, teams that are center needy, can probably be taking Graham Barton first off the board here. And a team like the Cowboys who needs a center, I would not be surprised in any way to see them taking Graham Barton off the board right here at pick 24. I could see them definitely going a few different routes, but I think whatever route it is, very likely to be O-line. It could be Jackson Powers-Johnson, it could be Graham Barton, but regardless, I do expect it to be someone in those trenches. All right, and then to the Green Bay Packers here at pick 25, we got Chop Robinson. I do like the value of this pick. Preston Smith's getting older. You get a guy right here, Chop, young. You can rotate, start starting him when you feel comfortable with that. But you can ease him in. You got a lot of depth on this D-line, adding more good young depth to it right here. And you know what I always say? I'm all about my trenches. So Chop Robinson at pick 25, I think you'd be getting fantastic value for the Packers. All right, then the Cardinals and the Bucs doing a little swap here. We got the Cardinals moving up just a spot to come take Byron Murphy. Maybe a little bit worried that the Bucs are going to be thinking about taking Byron off the board. And if you're the Cardinals, as I've said about every team that gets Byron Murphy, again, I expect Byron to go earlier than this. At the same time, if you do get Byron, especially this late, I think you're getting fantastic value. A team like the Cardinals, who has a lot of trench needs, taking Byron would be a fantastic use of one of your first round picks. And I love it because, again, like I say, whenever the Cardinals don't double up on receiver in one of these simulated mocks, I'm always going to be happy. It's another day where they didn't do it today, so we'll take it as a win. All right, then we got the Bucs taking Kool-Aid McKinstry right here at pick 27. And we've seen this one a lot more recently. Is it a sign? Is this really going to be where we see Kool-Aid go? I feel like he's gone here like the last like 4 mocks we've done. But again, it would make plenty of sense. A team like the Bucs who definitely has a big need at corner. You can play Kool-Aid wherever you want, even though, again, on a team like the Bucs, I would expect him to be playing on the outside, either X or Y. And I think you'd be getting great value right here. A Kool-Aid, again, I think he's going to go earlier than some people are expecting at this point. It's just the recency bias of it. It's just how people get. But Kool-Aid, you're definitely still getting first round talent, and you got to feel damn good about it getting here, pick 27 if this was the way that things were to go in the draft. All right, and then Keon Coleman to the Bills here at pick 28. I know we've seen this one recently. It might have even been the last sim mock we had just reacted to. And as I said last time, Keon Coleman I don't love in tons of spots. And even to an extent, I worry a little bit that he might just come to Buffalo and be that Gabe Davis 2.0, because I do worry about, his separation. But if you're willing to look past the separation issues, and again, something that can be coached, he can get better at that. He can, develop better set of releases, better better route running as when he lands in Buffalo or wherever he lands. But from a size, and everything else perspective and just catch point, this is a guy who definitely has a lot of very good tools. I worry about him a little bit more than some other people because of the intangible. Whenever you fail to separate to an extent, it's always going to raise questions, for at least some people. And I'm one of those people where I have to question when you struggle separating. It just is what it is. It's a kind of a big thing. I'm not going to show you. It's a big thing, but it's not something that can't be fixed. Keon Coleman has has tools that a lot of other receivers don't have. Besides the fact that he struggles with separation, and more than anything, pairing him with Josh Allen is definitely one of the best pairings you could have for Keon Coleman of any quarterback in the entire league. So I would not mind it, as opposed to, I don't expect him to go first round necessarily, but if he was to go first round, a team like the Bills would be one of the few teams where it would make sense. All right, and then at pick 29 here, major head scratcher alert. Even though, again, I'm aware, Jared Goff's contract is going to be up after this year, but after what he just did for the Lions, how they really were just a miserable play calling half away from, that Super Bowl appearance, and the fact that they traded, for Jared Goff recently, and Jared Goff has been, kind of, I don't want to say beloved, but he's definitely been welcomed over by the city now, and they're starting to get, accustomed to him, and there's definitely, I feel like, mutual, respect, and almost like, Jared Goff in the city of Detroit, it's like, they've been coming together. There's the best way to say it more than anything is what you get what I'm trying to say. And to take a quarterback, again, when you already have Hooker sitting, and for that potential replacement, like if that's the route you were going to go, it's just, it's a terrible pick. There's just no sugar with it. Bo Nix to the Lions, the mock draft shit itself, we're just gonna forget about it and move past it. All right, and then pick 30 to the Ravens right here. I absolutely love this. Jordan Morgan, I say this because I haven't really talked much about him. We've done a lot of these over the past couple months. But what I'm gonna say is I've gotten to Jordan Morgan a lot more over the past week or so, and man, I'm gonna tell you guys, I really like what I see from Jordan Morgan. The more I watch, the more I really do believe this is a guy who can go a lot earlier than he's projected. I would not be surprised, as I was just saying the other day, to some people, wouldn't be surprised to see him go anywhere from 17 and beyond. And again, that might sound crazy to you right now, but go watch some Jordan Morgan. Go watch a lot of Jordan Morgan. Snap for snap. It's a guy with a lot of tools in his bag. Moves really well for his size. He already has great intangible size. He's got a lot of tools, man. Just a lot of tools. You could play him at guard. You could play him at tackle. And that's the thing is where the Ravens, you'd have options just in camp, see where you like him most, go from there. Jordan Morgan to the Ravens would be a fantastic landing spot. Something I would love to see on draft night. All right, then we got Tyler Guyton to the Niners per the fucking usual at this point. This has kind of become the staple pick in these mocks, it's just, but again, as I always say, I understand it completely. I would almost there's it's down to few guys where it's I expect the Niners to go that route because you expect the board's gonna look a certain way, and I could be wrong on that. But with the guys that are gonna be sitting on the board at this point for the Niners, a guy like Tyler Guyton just makes so much sense. Where Trent's getting older, and again with McKivitz on only 1 year left on the contract, and beside all that, Tyler Guyton is still very raw. When you watch him on film, there's a lot of he has to grow. But there's also a lot of this guy's size and intangibles, stuff you can't teach, is the stuff you can't teach. And moreover, a guy like Trent, for him to sit behind, mold his game behind, it would be best case scenario for Tyler Guyton. Wouldn't be surprised at all to see the Niners go this route. And yeah, there's just nothing more to say about it at this point. If the Niners go Tyler Guyton, don't be surprised. All right, then to close us out here at pick 32, it's always fun when we see this one. Again, as we know, the Chiefs very well could go Xavier Worthy. Again, though, with the drop issues and the Chiefs already having issues with the receivers in their hands, I get it from the extent of the Tyreek Hill potential replacement and, fireworks fun. Yeah, I get it. But at the same time, I also, you know, I could see the Chiefs definitely going other directions of more sure-handed guys. I could also totally see Xavier Worthy. It's going to be a wild card, and it's going to be tons of fun to see what they do on draft night. All right, and thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for joining. If you enjoyed, drop a like, drop a sub. I literally cannot wait for the draft. I know y'all can't either. We're going to have so much content coming for you guys post-draft, on draft day. We can't wait. I'm ecstatic, man. Only 6 more days. I can't wait to see y'all for the draft. Again, y'all have a great rest of your day.